head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dog passed away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
It reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask the cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the secrets spilled on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be
Reveals the hidden lies.
Moonlight could mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies.
There's no cover,
No disguise. All the secrets spilled on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Welcome, welcome. How is everybody this evening? Welcome to the channel. If you have not been here before, you have been missing out. My name is Elizabeth, and this is Hillbilly Crime. Tonight, we are going to read the Benfield's testimony from his deposition. And there was a video that was put out by Court TV. We're going to watch it. Let me get this over. That way, if anybody doesn't understand what we're doing, this will kind of fill you in.
Stines has been locked up since last year after taking out the local sitting judge, Kevin Mullins, inside his chambers. The incident took place in the middle of the afternoon. Earlier that same day, the sheriff and the judge had eaten lunch together. After the shooting, the sheriff surrendered immediately, but what's still not clear is why he did it. Some people suspect it was connected to the sex extortion that was taking place inside the judge's chambers after hours, which brought charges against a deputy and resulted in a civil lawsuit against the sheriff. But now many are wondering if the judge himself was involved in this extortion for sex scandal.
There was this toxic mixture of sex and extortion in the courthouse. My client was forced to have oral sex and sexual intercourse in the judge's chambers.
But he does have some videotapes of some stuff in the judge's chambers.
What kind of stuff?
Just with girls' sexual and stuff.
What describe? Have you seen the videos?
I've seen one partly in, just them having sex with girls for the able to get out of jail.
Who was having sex?
Ben and just some higher ups up there.
Who?
The judge and.
You saw the video.
Yeah.
What did you see on the video? I mean,
I've seen Judge Mullins having sex with a girl.
Who was the girl?
I don't know. Because I don't know a lot of people from over.
Where was it at?
In his office, in the judge's chambers.
Is that the same place that you were meeting Ben? Is that how you know it was the judge's chambers? And this was Judge who?
Mullins.
This is explosive type of information. Talking about a judge, a sitting judge doing this. And she said she witnessed it on a video.
This audio you played, I was actually there. What happened was after we filed the lawsuit and before Fields was charged with the crime, the Attorney General's office made an appointment to come to my hometown of Prestonsburg and interviewed Sabrina. And what it is, Vinny, is called a proffer. And it's important to understand what a proffer is. A proffer is when the prosecution wants to find out every information they can find out. They ask all sorts of open-ended questions. Proffers are different from what's in a courtroom where you're only allowed to talk about what you think is admissible evidence. A typical proffer is tell us every rumor you've heard. Tell us every double, triple, quadruple hearsay. Tell us your speculation. So it's important for those talking about this release of this audio. First of all, we did not release it. As I understand from our friends in the media, the criminal case against Ben Fields is over because of the prosecution believing Sabrina. They indicted Mr. Fields, and he eventually pled guilty to basically every charge brought against him. After the proffer, the Attorney General's office, and I've had my differences with them over the past, but I give them high marks. They went forward and indicted a popular local figure, the bailiff, Ben Fields, who's referred to. They prosecuted him. They
I wanted to stop at for just a second because I just wanted to point something out there. I don't agree with him there. This is Ned Pillersdorf. This is the attorney who filed the civil lawsuit against Ben, Mickey, and the ankle monitor company. He said this a couple different times in a couple different interviews. And, I don't agree with that. Let's pat the Attorney General's office on the back because they believed her and they went forward and indicted a popular figure. Who was he popular with? Because the only people that I know that Ben Fields was popular with were the people that were in that courthouse and the people who were in that circle of law enforcement in Whitesburg or in Letcher County. So I just wanted to point that out.
secured guilty pleas, guilty verdicts, and time in jail. So that's the context of how this video got out there.
But you saw the video of the judge. Any other video that you actually saw?
No. They say that the Sheriff Mickey Stines is involved. I don't know.
Who said that?
Chad. He said he had videos with Mickey. So Mickey used to do the same thing when he was over house arrest.
How deep do you suspect the scandal goes? Does it go beyond this deputy? And could it have something to do
with the actual shooting?
You know, the best way to answer the question is the clip you filed of the defense lawyer.
Do you know whether this is connected to the federal lawsuit he was a part of? Is there any connection between these?
I think that the timing of what occurred is certainly something that is going to be a crucial point in this case. The timing of the deposition, amongst other things and other background information that will complete that story. But I do, yes, to answer your question, I do believe that that is a piece. This is a large story. That's a story that in some ways is difficult to tell. We look forward to sharing a more complete version of that as we go through this judicial process.
Former Sheriff Stines is well represented, very good lawyer, and the first question you would ask your client, why did you do this? He knows what Sheriff Stines told him. The video clip you showed seems to indicate that, yes, it is tied to my civil case.
And can you describe for us what happened immediately prior to the clip that we saw?
Sheriff Stines uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that. And that led to what you just saw.
There is a point when Sheriff Stines asked for to see the telephone of Judge Mullins.
Yes.
Are you aware of any recent content that was up and could have been relevant at the time of their discussion?
I was told that Sheriff Stines had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
Have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
So that number had been called from Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
He tried to call his daughter from Judge Mullins' phone, and
that detective seemed awfully reluctant to answer that question, didn't he? The way that I have perceived this part of it was that it wasn't, Mickey's daughter's number wasn't saved as a contact in the judge's phone. But the way that they asked that question, was the daughter's number found on his phone? He answered it yes, because Mickey had tried to call her from his phone. So that number was in fact on the judge's phone. Now, there hasn't been any other information related to Mickey's daughter that has come out. What we've been told here in this area is that Mickey's wife and Mickey's daughter have come out and denied that anything was going on with the judge. So there's that. I don't know how much that's going to play into this, because we just haven't been told any other information about that. But I thought that was very interesting that detective seemed to be very reluctant to answer that question, or at least his body language and his facial expressions made me think that.
it actually came out, we were under the impression after that hearing that the number of his daughter was saved in Judge Mullins' phone. But according to the local paper, the Mountain Eagle, the number was just dialed on Judge Mullins' phone. But when he got arrested, Sheriff Stines, his first statement to police was, they're trying to take my wife and kid, which is a direct correlation. Tried to call his daughter directly before the shooting happened in those chambers. And then he sat around at the courthouse outside of his chambers, waited to turn himself in. And then the first thing out of his mouth is that they're trying to take my wife and kid.
I do think the really interesting point is, Vinny, Sheriff Stines does not want to change a venue. Now, think about that logically. if a random person who, for whatever reason, shot the judge, usually when it happens, it's usually a domestic violence, somebody's irate. The last place that random person would want to be tried would be in a small county where everybody knew a popular local judge. That person would want to change a venue. It's astonishing in this case, not only to Mr. Bartley, who is a well-regarded lawyer. He said two things. One, he said it was related to my civil case. Two, he said, I don't want to change a venue, which tells me there's some sort of almost jury nullification defense brewing out there. My thought, really, as a criminal defense lawyer, I've only been a criminal defense lawyer in Appalachia for 43 years. I think there is some sort of jury nullification defense. Self-defense is not in the cards, obviously. Him tying it to the civil case I filed. And the civil case I filed, it's a civil case. This is our side, not the other side denies it. Makes some sweeping allegations.
The sheriff has not publicly revealed his motive or his defense, but is being evaluated by a mental health expert to determine first if he's competent to stand trial, and second, to determine whether or not he suffered from any reduced mental capacity at the time of the crime. I'm Vinnie Politan.
All right, guys. Now we're going to move on over to the deposition. Now, this deposition, the one that Mickey sat for. So you've got one deposition that Mickey Stines sat for this lawsuit, the civil lawsuit. You've got one deposition that Ben Fields sat for. And then you've got one that Sabrina Adkins sat for. So all three of those depositions, we've already read Mickey's. The one that Mickey gave, he actually went to Pillersdorf's office and gave that deposition 3 days before he went into the courthouse and pew-pewed the judge. I noticed on Ben's deposition that I don't know. It says up here at the top, the deposition of Ben Fields was taken on behalf of the plaintiff on September 11th, 2024. So Ben sat for his deposition. Let's see. The judge was pew-pewed on the 19th. So Mickey's was 3 days before that on that Monday. So Ben must have sat for his that prior week. So Ben must have gave his deposition right before Mickey gave his. So that gives a little bit more context to the answers that are going to be given in this deposition. Because think about it, the behavior that they are discussing was what, 2 years before this deposition? So that's a long period of time. I forget what I had for breakfast this morning, let alone 2 years ago. So, and you've got on behalf of the plaintiff, Bethany Baxter. On behalf of the defendants, you've got John Kelly, Jonathan Shaw, and then via Zoom, you've got Don Jones. And also present via Zoom was Mickey Stines and Sabrina Adkins. Now, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I have no legal training whatsoever. one thing that I found very interesting was that Daniel Dotson, he's one of the defense attorneys here in Letcher County. And he was physically present representing Mickey in his personal individual capacity. Mickey had another attorney that was there representing him in his official capacity as the sheriff. But Daniel Dotson was there representing Mickey in his personal and individual capacity. Only though during that his deposition. So he's not been present, or at least it's not listed him as being present for any of these other depositions. So I just thought that that was interesting. Something that my untrained eye noticed. Okay, guys. So, you know, kind of the way that these depositions go, this is a very, very long one. And so I don't see the comments while I'm reading because I'm over here on this other page. So y'all pay attention to the chat, because I'm not going to be able to put any of them up on the screen while we're going. Okay. So this is the direct examination. And just to also say who, oh, okay, it didn't say it. All right. So the direct examination, this is being done by Bethany Baxter. The cross-examination, which we're not doing today, that'll be in part 2 of this, will be Jonathan Shaw. And it's only 2 pages. This direct examination is long. All right, Ms. Baxter. Mr. Fields, my name is Bethany Baxter, and I represent the plaintiffs in this federal civil litigation. My first question for you is, have you ever given a deposition before? Yes. Okay. And how many times? Once. Okay. What was the situation that prompted you to give that deposition testimony? It was due to an inmate at the Letcher County Jail passing away while in custody, and they took depositions from everybody that was working. Okay. Were you named as a defendant in that lawsuit? No. Okay. How long ago was that? I would say over 10 years. So that means he's been working there for over 10 years at the jail. Do you remember the name of the plaintiff, the individual who died? I believe his name was Christian Cantrell. Okay. Well, I don't know if you remember since it has been 10 years, but I'm going to give you a little sense of how today is going to work. As you can see, it is somewhat of an informal process. Mr. Van Hoos is going to be taking down everything that is said today. You are under oath. I'm going to be asking you some questions. Other attorneys may have some questions as well. I would just ask, if I ask you a question and you don't understand it, or it didn't make sense, or I talk too fast, all of which may well happen. Feel free to ask me to rephrase it or repeat it. I am happy to do that, especially as the day wears on. So if you don't ask me to rephrase or repeat a question, I'm going to assume that you understood my question, and I'm going to assume that you response or your answer is responsive to my question. Is that fair? Yes. The other thing that I ask is please give affirmative responses instead of shaking your head, for example, or uh-huh, or uh-uh. I will try to prompt you to be more clear if that happens. The court reporter may as well. That is just so that we have a clear record. Okay, I want to make sure that I understand what your answers were based on the transcript that we are going to get from today's deposition. If you want to take a break at some point, stand up, stretch your legs, smoke a cigarette, or whatever break that you might need, I'm happy to do that. But if I've asked you a question, I ask that you answer that question before we take a break, okay? Okay. What did you do to prepare for today's deposition? Mr. Kelly is his attorney. You do have an attorney-client privilege. The conversations that we had and the conversations that you had with Jason are privileged, and you do not talk about that. Yes, aside from any conversations that you had with attorney, did you talk to anyone else about your deposition today? No. You didn't talk to Mickey Stines about your deposition? No. When was the last time that you talked to Mickey Stines? It was sometime last year. Okay, so in 2023? Yes. Okay. Did you talk to anybody else at the courthouse? Any of the judges or court staff? No. Did you review any documents before your deposition today? Yes. What documents did you review? The depositions of the other parties. Would that have been Sabrina Adkins's deposition? Yes. And would that have been Patty Stockham's deposition? No. So we've still got to get Patty's. Just Sabrina's deposition? Yes. Okay. Did you read it in full? Yes. Okay. Anything else aside from her deposition? Some court documents. Which court documents? My criminal case. Okay. The case where you were identified as a defendant? Yes. What documents did you review from that case? My plea agreement. Okay. Did you review any of the discovery from that case? No. Okay. Do you have the discovery from that case, the documents that were produced by the Attorney General Special Prosecutor? I don't have them with me, Mr. Kelly, nor does the attorney, Ms. Baxter. Well, now he can answer for himself, Mr. Kelly. Okay. Question. Do you have those documents? You said not with you. Do you have them somewhere else? I believe that I have a copy in my residence. Okay. Is that a physical copy? Or is it on a hard drive or something? I believe it's a physical copy. Okay. How many pages approximately? Several. Thousands? I don't know if it was thousands, but it is several hundred. Okay. Do you know that we have requested those documents from you through counsel? I did not. Well, we have, and there has actually been a lot of discussion about that in this case, and burned a lot of oil trying to get a hold of those. So I ask that those get produced as soon as possible. And I am also going to say, if once we get a hold of those, if there is things that we need to address that we don't have access to today, I might have to ask you to come back on a separate day, okay? Okay. Who is paying for your attorney in this case, if you know? I'm not entirely sure. I believe Keiko, maybe, K-A-C-O. Okay. Have you paid anything out of your pocket? Mr. Kelly. Objection as to any kind of relationship that he has with the attorneys. Ms. Baxter. I think whether or not that you have paid directly your attorneys is fair game. Mr. Kelly. I disagree. Ms. Baxter. So are you instructing him not to answer? Mr. Kelly. That is correct. Okay. Have you received any kind of reservation of rights letter from, says Cato, I cannot stand all these typos. Mr. Kelly, note an objection. You can ask him if he got a letter. Ms. Baxter, that is what I asked him. I am not sure. Okay, as you sit here today, you are not sure whether Keiko might be representing you pursuant to a reservation of rights. Is that what I understand? Mr. Kelly, note an objection. If you want to hear from me, I will gladly tell you. Ms. Baxter, no, I am interested in hearing from Mr. Fields. If you know, is Keiko representing you pursuant to any reservation of rights? Mr. Kelly, and likewise, if you don't know, you can answer accordingly. I don't know. Have you gotten any letters or any documents from Keiko related to this litigation? Have you gotten any documents, letters, or anything else from Keiko related to this litigation? The deposition here? No, just the case in general. Mr. Kelly, he may be misunderstanding, but things that come from us come from Keiko. They don't. They come from us, and we are your attorney, and you are not to talk about it. Question. I am only talking about Keiko. I'm not interested in hearing what information or what communications that you have gotten from your attorney. If you know. I don't know. Okay. Could you state your full name for the record? Benjamin Charles Fields. Mr. Fields, I'm interested to know about your family in Letcher County, who is over the age of 18. I know you have a spouse named Angie Fields. Your mother is Nell Fields. I have seen in some of the documents you have a number of siblings. I have got their names. What about? I am interested in surnames and first cousins in Letcher County. I don't know all their names. My mother is one of 18 kids. I have a lot of uncles and aunts. I will tell you what I will send a letter to your attorney and ask them to provide that information at a later date to save us some time today. But I would like to know sort of all of your relatives through first cousin, which sounds like it might be a lot of people who are in Letcher County. But I would also like to know generally in eastern Kentucky. And I can list those counties out and let your attorney know. Can you do that for me? Mr. Kelly, are you talking about the Pikeville division? Ms. Baxter, correct. Question, you have a couple of children. One child? I have a stepdaughter and a biological daughter. I'm only interested in your children who are over the age of 18. So what are the names of your children over the age of 18? My stepdaughter. Is that Sky Napier? Yes. Who is Sky's mother? My wife. Your current wife, Angie? Yes. Have you been married before? No. When did you and Angie get married? In 2011. And you have an uncle named Bill Meade, correct? Yes. Has Mr. Meade ever ridden in your sheriff's department vehicle with you? No. You have a sister named Holly Fields, correct? Yes. And does she have a married name? Boggs. And what is her position at the courthouse? She works with drug court. Angie used to work in the jail, correct? Yes. Is that how you met her? Yes. When did you start working for the jail? In 2008. So does Angie still work with the jail? No. Where does she work now? She is the court designated worker. So that answers that question. She's a court designated worker. Question. Did she get terminated from the jail? No, of course not. When did she start working as a CDW? I believe in November of, she applied and started the interview process in November of 2021. I think officially she started in January of 2022. Okay, walk me through your educational background. So did you go to Cowan Elementary School? Yes. Did you go to Whitesburg Middle? No. Okay, what middle school did you go to? Cowan. It was all in one. Okay, and then did you graduate from Letcher County High School? No, it was Whitesburg High School. Okay, so from there, did you get any additional education? I took 2 years at Southeast Community College. Is that there in Whitesburg? Yes. And did you get a degree from Southeast? No. Okay. Did you get any sort of law enforcement education through Southeast Community College? No, of course not. Okay. Do you have any other family in law enforcement? Not that I know of. Okay. So Angie and your sister Holly both work at the courthouse. Do you have any other family that works at the courthouse? No. Any other family that works for the jail? No. Any other relatives who works for the sheriff's department within the last 10-year period? No. I heard he had a brother-in-law who worked in there, but that might not be considered his family, so I don't know. Where do you own property in Letcher County? I don't. Okay. Do you have family property? Do you have family members who own property in Letcher County? Yes. What area of the county is that property located in? Cowan. Does your family own any property around Premium? Mr. Kelly. What is the purpose of this line of questioning? Does it have to do with obtaining a judgment against him? Is that what you are doing? Ms. Baxter. I just seen reference to different of the counties in discovery. And I am just trying to figure out what area of the county he has got property in. And one of the reasons why the typos irritate the living crap out of me is because you can't, with so many typos, it's kind of hard to understand what word. I mean, usually we can figure it out, but it takes away from the context of the document in certain areas. Answer, not that I know of. Not at Premium. Okay, around Premium? Mother, see, lives on Kings Creek. And I have an uncle that lives on Roxana. Is that Bill Meade? He lives, I don't know if it would be considered Kings Creek or Roxana. I don't know where that line is. He lives between there. I have another uncle that lives at Roxana. Okay, what's his name? Rondell Meade. Rondell. Okay. Specifically from 2020 through 2022, I'm going to ask you about social media use. So you had a Facebook account, correct? Yes. Did you have more than one Facebook account? No. So the only account that you had was the one with your name on it. Is that correct? Yes. And what about Snapchat? Did you use Snapchat? No. Did you use any other social media platforms? No. Only Facebook? Yeah. Yes. What email addresses did you use between 2020 and 2022? I used Got1. I think that I saw somewhere that Hacksaw was your nickname. Not really. I thought that I saw somewhere in your application for your job at the Letcher County Sheriff that you had identified that as one of your nicknames. I can't remember. But you are saying that is not a nickname? That is not one that I would go by. Do you have any other nicknames that you would go by? Just Ben. Big Ben. Okay. So you worked as a deputy jailer with the Letcher County Jail from 2008 until what date? 2019, January of 2019. Is that because you got the job with the sheriff's department? Yes. What was your job title at the Letcher County Jail? Deputy jailer up until the last, maybe 2 years. Then I was the assistant chief deputy. So he knew better. Okay, let's start with deputy jailer and explain to me what your job duties as a deputy jailer. Just to oversee the everyday operations of the jail, supervise prisoners. Okay, and the jail in Letcher County is in the same building as the courthouse, correct? Yes. So when you say oversee inmates, would that include taking them into the courthouse, or was that limited just into the jail portion of that building? What do you mean by taking them into the courthouse? Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, did your job include only overseeing those inmates within the jail area of the building, or would you oversee them in the other parts of the building? Occasionally, we would have to take prisoners up to court to assist the bailiffs. And who were the bailiffs at that time? Sheriff Stines was, and my brother-in-law was at that time. There's the brother-in-law. You didn't mention him before. What is his name? Jason Boggs. B-O-G-G-S? Yes. And that is Holly's husband? Yes. Does Jason still work in the courthouse? No. Where does he work now? He is a nurse. Okay. But he used to work as a bailiff? Yes. Okay. You said oversee inmates. Sometimes you take them up to court. What else would you do to oversee inmates at the jail? Dispense medication, serve them dinners, bring them from their cell to visitation. Okay. And think that you said earlier that is where that you met Angie Fields, correct? Yes. Okay. And what part of the county is she from? When I met her? Yeah. She was living in the Mayking area. Do you recall when she started working at the jail? I believe it was in 2009. Okay. So soon after that, you started? Yeah. And I saw in the records that you had acknowledged that you have had sexual contact with Angie Fields at the Letcher County Jail. Do you recall that response to a polygraph report? It was in the courthouse. So you had sexual contact with Angie Mullins, who is now your wife, in the courthouse? Not Angie Mullins. I'm sorry, Angie Fields. Yes. I don't know where I got Angie Mullins from. Okay. Explain to me where that sexual contact took place. In the, I guess it would be the first floor bathroom. First floor of the jail, of the courthouse. Okay. Is that like the public bathroom? Yes. And when would that have been? Like what year? 2011? Maybe the end of 2010? How many times did that occur? Just a couple. So 2? Yes. And was that while you guys were on duty? No. Okay. So what would have been doing in the public bathroom of the courthouse when you weren't on duty? It was between shifts, getting off duty. We worked the same shift. Which that doesn't make sense. So, was it before your shift or after your shift? I can't remember. And so would that have been before you two got married or after you were married? Before. Would that have been during normal business hours for the courthouse, or would it have been after hours? After hours. Okay, did you ever have any sexual contact with Angie in the judge's chambers? No. I think that I heard you say earlier that part of your job as a deputy jailer was to take inmates from the jail up into the courthouse. And I guess that was for court hearings? Yes. Did you ever take any female detainees at the Letcher County Jail into the courthouse after hours? No. You never took any female detainees from the Letcher County Jail into this public bathroom. Is that your testimony? Correct. What about into the judge's chambers? Same question, but judge's chambers. Mr. Kelly, please realize that she is going pretty far field in her questioning, and remember our conversation concerning the possibility of criminal charges arising from it, and you rights to invoke the Fifth Amendment. I will leave it to your discretion. Holy cow. Okay, I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to take a breath, because I can feel my face getting red. I can feel it, man. Just unbelievable. I knew I had seen in one of those documents that it was Angie he had admitted to sleeping with in that polygraph report. And several people had asked me later, and I was like, man, I can't really remember where I remember seeing that. I can't remember where I saw that at. And so some were thinking that he was implying or talking about his victims or the women that were on house arrest. Oh, no, honey. Oh, no, it was his wife. It was his wife, who's working as a court-designated worker right now. Good going. Good going. I'm appalled at that. Appalled. And the fact that she still has her job down there is just unbelievable. But it's not just her. It's any of them. Any of them that commit this kind of misconduct. If it was me, I'd sure be getting my consequences. If it was you, you would sure be getting your consequences too. So what makes Ben Fields and his wife so special that they don't have any consequences from these actions? It is the appearance of impropriety that we want our legal professionals to avoid, right? I know I don't really know exactly who all that applies to, whether it's just elected officials, whether it's the prosecution, whether it's a judge, whether it's a defense attorney, or whether it's a court security officer, whether it's a jail employee, whether it's a sergeant or an assistant chief deputy jailer. Are you joking me? And then and his lawyer was telling him, be very careful how you answer these questions, because if you answer it in the wrong way, you can open yourself up for more criminal charges. See, Ben Fields' criminal trial is already over. His criminal charges, they're done. That's a done deal. He served his 6 months, but that was only on Sabrina Adkins. He was charged for Sabrina and Jennifer Hill, but Jennifer Hill passed away before his trial or his plea bargain or whatever. So because she passed away, there was no victim. There was no reporting party to charge or to continue his prosecution on, except for Sabrina Adkins, which is why I question her Jennifer Hill's death. Have they investigated it? I mean, you'd think that that somebody would come out and clarify that her death a little bit better than just the one or two sentences that's been thrown out there about it. But because it doesn't seem like it was an ongoing investigation. But we'll see. Jessica, let's get fired up. I do. I can't help it, y'all. I start shaking all over. It just unbelievable. Jessica, maybe them cheap old grandma scented air fresheners does something for them. Yuck. They were getting off duty, all right. Nasty things. But that doesn't even make any sense, because he said it was between shifts. But he also said we worked the same shift. So if you guys worked the same shift, why didn't you just wait till you got home? If you was getting off work and y'all worked the same shift, then you didn't have no business in that bathroom. And I wonder was he wearing a raincoat when he was doing all this? Because he sure had several different partners. Absolutely outrageous. Could you repeat the question? Have you ever taken any female detainees from the Letcher County Jail up into the judge's chambers at the courthouse? During hours or after hours? At any time? No. So why ask the question? During hours or after hours? At any time? No. Don't make much sense. Okay. Have you ever been alone with any female detainee from the Letcher County Jail inside the courthouse portion of the building? Could you be more specific? Have you ever been alone with a female detainee from the Letcher County Jail in the courthouse? You know, during a time period when no one else was present? No. Okay. You have an understanding of where there are and where there are not cameras within the courthouse. Is that correct, Mr. Kelly? Are you including the jail and the courthouse? I am talking about the courthouse portion of the building. At one time, I would know. Okay. And what would that time period have been? While I worked there. And when you say while you worked there, are you referencing the time when you were working as a deputy sheriff? Yes. Okay. So based on that time period and your understanding, what were the places where there were no cameras within the courthouse? Where there was no cameras? Let's see. It would be the jury room, the judge's chambers, the secretary's office. Okay. If you are aware of other places, I would like for you to include those in your response. The bathrooms. Makes sense. Private offices. While you working for the Letcher County Jail, at any time during that period from 2008 to 2018, was there ever any complaints against you that you were aware of from inmates? Can you specify complaints? Any complaints about mistreatment, Mr. Kelly? For ones that are made, Just any complaints whatsoever, Mr. Kelly. Inmates complain all of the time, Ms. Baxter. He can answer for himself. And if he wants clarification, he can get it, Mr. Kelly. Well, I have a right to have clarification. I want to make sure that we are all both talking about the same thing. I would like to know what you mean by complaints. Ms. Baxter, you can object to form. I just did. Ben, I would like clarification. Any complaints? Any complaints at all? Any complaints from inmates at the Letcher County Jail that you were mistreating them? Yes. Okay. Explain to me what those complaints would have been. Didn't give them extra time during their visits, wouldn't go against the jail's policy to favor them, to give them extra stuff or special treatment. Buddy, that's rich, ain't it? Okay. I guess the jail has some policies about inmates getting preferable treatment. Well, it is just like the visitation. If the inmate wants to have a longer visitation, it is not fair to other inmates. Right, that makes sense. What about complaints regarding sexual misconduct by you lodged by Letcher County Jail inmates, Mr. Kelly? Again, this is an area where she is questioning relevance and perhaps whether is it designed to discover as admissible evidence. But it is also where your rights are affected, in particular the Fifth Amendment. Your right, take the Fifth Amendment. I will leave it to your discretion. That doesn't make any sense because they do not get this deposition, these words right. It completely takes away the meaning of it. Like, how can anybody look back at this and use this in a court of law? Because it just, sorry, y'all. I'm having a spell. None that I know of. Were there ever any complaints about sexual misconduct lodged by Letcher County Jail inmates against other deputy jailer while you were there? None that I can think of. Okay. You referenced earlier that you had been an assistant chief deputy. Would that have been a promotion? Yes. Okay. And when were you promoted to that position? I'm not sure if it was 2017 or 2018. So that probably would have been Don McCall, who was jailer back then. But that's just, we'll see. And how did your job duties change when you were promoted to assistant chief deputy? Not much really changed. Did you get a pay increase? Slightly. Did you have any supervisory duties? Yes. What were those? To be the supervisor of the shift. Okay. How many shifts were there? How many shifts that I supervised, or just on a day-to-day basis shifts? I'm sorry I interrupted you. On any given day, are there 2 shifts a day or 3 shifts a day? That is what I'm trying to figure out. At the time, it was 3 shifts through the week and then 2 shifts on the weekend. So were there 3 different assistant chief deputies? Or how many persons held that position? No. Were you the only one? Yes. And who was the jailer who promoted you to that position? Don McCall. I knew it. He wouldn't let me in the front door. Who was the jailer who followed Mr. McCall? Bert Sloan. Okay. Did you work under Bert Sloan at all? No. When you got promoted to shift supervisor, did you oversee Angie? Yes. Okay. Was there any policy about, conflict of interest or managing persons who you are directly related to your knowledge? Not that I know of. Did you have any investigative responsibilities as assistant chief deputy? Yes. And what sort of things would you investigate? Just if they was a fight, I would watch the cameras and try to review them, find out what went on. Okay. What other things would you investigate? Just about any criminal offense that occurred inside of the jail. Okay. Would that include criminal offenses perpetrated by staff at the jail? I believe the jailer usually oversaw those. If anything ever arose that seemed criminal, the jailer would investigate it. Okay. I think that you referenced earlier amount of fairness amongst, and sometimes inmates would want special privileges. Were some of those privileges related to visitation? Is that what I understood? Yes. That's really rich that he would say that when he was given such special preferential treatment as an inmate. Did other privileges relate to food, getting food brought in from outside or something? Mainly from wanting extra trays about food-related stuff. Okay. And you were an inmate at the Letcher County Jail for 6 months. Is that correct? Yes. Did you get any special privileges while you were an inmate there? I was a trustee. Here it comes, guys. Here it comes. What does that mean? I was allowed to come and go in my cell as all other trustees are. How many trustees are there? At the time, counting myself, there was 8. 8 trustees? And how many inmates were there total during that 6-month time period? Approximately. I would say between 50 and 70. Okay, so how does one earn the position of trustee? Being trusted. Entrusted in whose eyes? I guess whoever is working. Jailers. Okay, so whoever the deputy is. Does it change from shift to shift who the trustees are? No. Each shift, I guess, can pick if they need a trustee. They can bring one out. And what do those trustees get to do? Work, sweep, mop, do the laundry, cook. Do you get food brought in? Fast food brought in for you? Churches would bring food. The guards would buy pizza and bring in. That wasn't answering her question. Would only the trustees get to share in that pizza? Most often. Sometimes the jail bought pizza or food for the whole jail. But other times, only the trustees got to have that catered food, correct? If there was extra that the guards bought. And did you know any of those guards from having worked as deputy jailer previously? Few, 3 or 4. He knew them all. What were their names? Michael Billetier. Who else? Alina Hensley, Brian Sloan, Amanda Sexton. Anybody else? Justin Collier. I believe that is the only ones that I knew when that I worked there. and would have been the assistant chief deputy and supervisor of those 5 people you just named? Not all 5 of them. Which ones of those did you previously supervise? I believe Justin Collier and Mikey Billetier and Amanda Sexton. Did Angie Fields ever have a supervisory role within the Letcher County Jail? Yes. Did she have the title of assistant chief deputy? I don't think that was her title. I think she was a lieutenant. Was that even higher than the assistant chief deputy? I don't know. Really? Don't even know? Do you know at the time when Angie Fields was working as a lieutenant for the jail, did she supervise any of those people that you just named? Possibly. Any other special privileges that you had by virtue of being a trustee? If there was leftover food after we served, we could get a little extra. Anything else? No. Were you ever allowed to leave the jail? We would take the trash out to the Sally Port. Where's the Sally Port? It is connected to the jail. Okay, did you ever go past the Sally Port? Yes. What occasion did you go past the Sally Port while you were in jail? Whenever they would bring the food delivery for the jail, we would have to go out in the front of the lobby, load it in the carts, and bring it back in. And who is they? The trustees. But who would be bringing the food? You said when they bring the food. Who is they? The company that they order the food off of to be cooked and served. Okay, so the trustees have the privileges of going outside beyond the Sally Port to get that food? Yes. Were you made a trustee on the first day that you checked in at the jail? Or did it take some time to become a trustee? It was probably about a week. Okay. Had any of the other folks who were trustees, had any of them previously worked at the jail also, like you? Not that I know of. Okay, I understand you. For a period of time, were a Letcher County constable. Is that correct? Oh, he said yes. I thought it was just his daddy. We were wrong. And so that is an elected position, correct? Yes. As I understand it, at least in Lexington, it is for a specific geographic area within the county. Is that correct? Yes. Just generally speaking, what was your region, if that is the proper term, for acting as a constable? It would District 1. What does that include? Most of Whitesburg, maybe all of Whitesburg, Cowan, Little Cowan, Dry Fork. That is the places that I can think of. And when were you elected to that position of constable? I'm not sure. Maybe 2010? Based on some of the notes that I saw, it looked like you might have started that position in 2011. And I think that I saw somewhere that you actually resigned in December of 2014. Does that sound accurate? I ran in 2010, so yeah, I would have took office in 2011, and I just never filed to run again. Okay, so it is not that you actually left that position. No. And I saw somewhere, I guess, you decided not to run for personal reasons. Yes. What were those reasons? It didn't pay nothing and wasn't worth the headache. Did you have an office when you worked as constable? No. You just worked out of your home Yeah. Was there any relationship with the sheriff's office by virtue of you holding that position of constable? I don't know. I don't know if I guess it wouldn't be constable. Is separate. Yeah, I guess I will ask it a different way. When you were serving as a constable for District 1, did you have any interaction with that role with Letcher County Sheriff's Office? Not that I can think of, not directly. Maybe if I pulled up on a wreck assisting the sheriff's deputy who was working the wreck, I might assist with the traffic, but I can't really think of any time that I affiliated with them. Okay, so in 2019, you went to work for the Letcher County Sheriff's Department. Is that correct? Yes. Am I correct that you were hired as court security officer? Yes. So how did the role of court security officer differ from persons who did not hold that title, but who were also deputy sheriffs? I was restricted to the courthouse. What do you mean by that? That is where that I worked. I didn't patrol the streets and stuff. Okay. Did you also serve warrants? Yes. So that would be outside of the courthouse, correct? No, people that came to the courthouse. Okay, so you would only serve a warrant if it was somebody that stepped foot in the courthouse? As far as I remember, yes. Okay, but you did have a patrol car, correct? You had a Letcher County Sheriff's Department vehicle? Yes. Why did you need a vehicle if your role was restricted to the courthouse? I guess to go from home to work. So you were allowed to use that vehicle to go from home to work? Yes. Did you use that vehicle to go places other than home and work? Training. Did you also use that vehicle in your role as the ankle monitor for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions? Yes. Okay, and you were hired by Sheriff Danny Webb. I started the interview and training process, I think, while Danny was sheriff. Right. But Mickey Stines has already been elected back in November to become the next sheriff. Is that correct? Yes. Did you campaign or do any election work for Mickey Stines? No, not really. Did you participate in his campaign in any way? Not that I can think of. Did you know Mickey Stines before 2018? Yes. How did you first meet Mickey Stines? At the courthouse. Was that while you were working as a deputy jailer? Yes. Help me understand how you guys would have met and the kind of relationship you had during that time period when you were working for the jail. He was the bailiff for district court and would come down to get prisoners. So he would come down to get prisoners, and sometimes you would take prisoners up to him. Is that how I understood it earlier? Sometimes, I think. Usually, if the jail would take prisoners up, it would be for drug court after 4 o'clock and stuff like that. Okay, so drug court happened later on in the day? Yes, it happens after regular court is over with, I guess. And did you develop a friendship with Mickey Stines during that time period when you was working for the jail? You could say that. Okay. How did that friendship evolve? Just we both worked at the same place, basically. I mean, did he invite you over to his house? Did you invite him over to your house? He came to my house once and worked on my heat pump for me, cleaned the coils on it, and then he has invited me to his house. And where does he live? McRoberts. And that is the opposite end of the county from Cowan? Yes. Did he invite you over for any particular purpose? Hang out, play cards, eat? Remember, this circle down here in Letcher County, they're big card players. Apparently, there's card games all over the dang county and have been for decades. A lot of gambling going on. Yeah, we would play poker. Oh, okay. And that was to play poker? Yeah, we would play poker. I have seen reference to poker games, but look there, it says poke games. Okay, you started going to Sheriff Stines' poker games when you were a deputy jailer? I can't remember. It would be towards the end, maybe of being a deputy jailer. I'm not sure. Okay, would those poker games happen with any kind of routine way? Was it like every Sunday or something like that? I can't remember for sure. It could have been on Sundays. I can't really remember. Was it like a weekly occurrence or a monthly occurrence? Weekly. Weekly. And how many people would typically be there? And I'm talking about specifically the time period when you were a deputy jailer. I can't remember if I went up when I was a deputy jailer. Okay, but you did develop a friendship with Mickey Stines while you were still a deputy jailer. That is what I understood you to say previously, correct? Yes. Did Mickey Stines promise you a job in exchange for your support in his election? No. When did Mr. Stines? Did he first approach you about working as a deputy sheriff? Or how did that work? He did. What did he say? I can't remember how it went. If he wins, if I would want to work for him, something along those lines. I can't remember. Did you understand when he first approached you that he was wanting to offer you a job as court security officer? Yes. What did he tell you about being a court security officer, specifically? You would be a bailiff. You would get the prisoners and take them up to court. And did you understand that Mr. Stines was also working for East Kentucky Corrections Solutions during that time period? Yes. And what did you understand, what Mr. Stines did in his role? And I'm just going to call it EKCS for short. What did you understand Mickey Stines' job duties in his role with EKCS? He overseen the house arrest in Letcher County. Okay. During the time period before you started working for the Letcher County Sheriff's Department, had you ever met Patty Stockham? I don't believe so. Do you remember when you first met Patty Stockham? Whenever that I started at the sheriff's office, was it Mickey Stines who helped you get the job with EKCS? I suppose. Okay. Did you start working for EKCS before you started working for the sheriff's department? I don't think that I started working for them. I believe that I went up and watched Mickey because he done the job to get an understanding of it. And when you say the job, you are talking about the job with EKCS? Yes. And when you say went up, you are saying that you went to another place within the courthouse to watch him perform that job? Yes. And where in the courthouse did he perform that job? The district courtroom. And what time of day would that have been? It was on Wednesdays. What time? After 4 o'clock. How late? 4 to 4:30. 4 or 4:30. I think was when he had everybody checking in. Let me go over here and just make sure everything's going. Make sure sound's going and everything. All right. Poker games. Yikes. Okay. Question. Okay. Did that change when you became the home incarceration officer for EKCS? No. So you kept that at the same time? Yes. Did you start working for EKCS about the same time that you became the court security officer for Letcher County Sheriff's Department? Yes. Let's talk specifically about the Letcher County Sheriff's Department, okay? Could we take a short break? Sure. All right. I was asking you before the break, what sort of training that you got as a court security officer for the Letcher County Sheriff's Office? Explain to me your training upon hire. It was 2-week training in Richmond. Was that the Criminal Justice Information System Security Awareness training? I believe so. Any other training aside from that 2 weeks of training? I had a week of research training, my second year. Any other annual training you would have received after that initial hire? CPR? Anything else? Not that I can think of. Do you recall being training on any of the Letcher County Sheriff's Department policies? Yes. What was that training like? We were given the policy to review. Okay. Did you review it? Yes. Did you review it the time that you were hired? Yes. Was it a requirement that you review that again on an annual basis that you recall? I can't remember. I know that you said you sort of shadowed Mickey Stines regarding the work with EKCS. Did you shadow Mickey Stines or anyone else, at the courthouse related to the court security officer work? Yes. Who did you shadow? Sheriff Stines. Okay. How long did you shadow him for? I believe a couple of weeks. We used the term bailiff. We used the term court security officer. Is that the same thing? It is my understanding. It is. Okay, I will use bailiff because it is fewer words. Were you there for circuit court, district court, or both? District court. And that is Judge Mullins, correct? Yes. Was there ever any occasion when you would have served as a bailiff for the circuit court also? Yes. Was there a separate bailiff who was working in the circuit court during the 2020-2021 time period? Yes. Was that Jason Eccles? I believe so. Okay. Did you know Judge Mullins before you started working for the Sheriff's Department? Yes. Would you call him a friend? Did you have a relationship with him? We would talk if we seen each other. Okay. Have you ever been to his house? A couple of times to take papers up to get him to sign. Never for a, social visit? No. What about Judge Kraft? Did you know him prior to starting your work with the Letcher County Sheriff's Department? Yes. And would you call him a friend? Mr. Kelly. You are talking about Junior James Wiley. Correct. Judge Kraft, who was circuit judge in 2021. Would you consider him a friend? Yes. Okay. Have you ever been to his house for a social visit? No. But you knew him prior to going to work for the Letcher County Sheriff's Department, correct? Yes. How did you know him? As the judge. Okay, you didn't know him in any capacity other than judge. I knowed he was an attorney, but I can't say that I really knew him while he practiced. Okay. So aside from the training you have already described, do you recall there being any other additional training that you received related to your work with Letcher County Sheriff's Department? Not that I can think of. Okay. Aside from the training that you received from Mickey Stines related to EKCS, did you receive any other type of training? Not that I can think of. Do you recall any employment policies or handbook or anything of that nature related to EKCS? I can't remember. So all of the training that you received was training that you got from Mickey Stines, correct? Yes. And after that, I met Patty. She showed me when we got the new GPS bracelets. She showed me how to hook those up. Okay. And that happened sometime after you started working for EKCS, correct? Yes. Aside from that training related to the GPS bracelets, did you receive any other training from Patty Stockham? Not that I can think of. To your knowledge, were there any other employees that you worked with at EKCS beyond Patty Stockham? No. Okay. Did you ever meet any other contractors or employees of EKCS besides Patty Stockham? No. Describe to me your relationship with Jason Eccles. Am I pronouncing his last name correctly? I believe so. When did you first meet him? At the jail. Okay, so he worked at the jail also? Yes. When was he a deputy jailer? I can't remember when he started. Did he go to work for the sheriff's department before or after you? After. Did you help him get a job with the sheriff's department? I told him that he could put me as a reference. Okay. I looked at your job application with applying for the job with the sheriff's department, and you listed Bert Sloan. He was the jailer, correct? He was the jailer, but he wasn't the jailer when that I filled out the application. He was running for office. Believe without looking at the dates. Okay, that is fine. You also listed Kevin Mullins as a reference. Do you recall doing that? Yes. Did Kevin Mullins have any say-so in who served as the court security officer in his courtroom? I'm not sure. Do you know if he spoke to Sheriff Stines on your behalf about that job? I'm not sure. Did you ask him if you could list him as a reference before doing so? I believe I did. And I guess he said sure. I'm assuming yes. Okay. He also listed Terrence Ison. Who is that? He worked in the circuit clerk's office. Okay. In what role? He might have a pretrial officer at the time. I can't remember. See, it says he might have a pretrial officer at that time. Terrence Ison is the pretrial officer and has been for a very long time. What I have in the discovery files, you noted that he was in pretrial services. So what does that mean? He was the pretrial services at the jail. That would be to interview prisoners when they come in to set their bonds. Okay. Would he have any role in the home incarceration decision making? No. Did you interact with him in any way in your role as the home incarceration officer with EKCS? Not that I can think of. Did you interact with anybody else in pretrial services in your role as home incarceration officer with EKCS? I am sure did. And instead of it being pre-trial, it's all pre-trail. Man, y'all need to pick a different deposition company. This is awful, and all three of them have been this way. Help me understand what that interaction would be. It would be to verify bonds, to make sure they have a house arrest bond, And what are the conditions? Okay, what are the conditions of house arrest? Condition of their bond. What is an example of condition of bond? A monetary amount has to be posted before they can be released. Anything aside from monetary amounts, it is set by the judge, I guess. Okay. Rug screens, good and lawful behavior, stuff of that nature. And you would have to check with that pre-trial services person, because part of your job as home incarceration officer was to make sure that those things occurred, those conditions were satisfied. Is that true? If I interacted with pre-trial for a house arrest, it was just to verify bond for the person who had house arrest. You also listed Jason Eccles as a reference. Do you recall doing that? I suppose. Okay. Were you his supervisor over at the jail prior to going to work at the sheriff's department? Yes. Have you known him since high school? Have you had a long friendship? Yes, when he started at the jail. Okay. Do you recall when he started at the jail? I don't. Okay. You were a sworn employee with the sheriff's department, correct? I guess. Do you recall swearing an oath? Yes. I was just wondering, do you know what it means to be a sworn employee? Good question, lawyer. Good question. I don't know if I understood the question. So how can you even swear people in under an oath if they don't even know what the heck the oath is or what they're even doing? That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life. Welcome to Letcher County, y'all. Mr. Kelly, I'm not sure that I understand the question. Other than taking an oath, I don't know. And if you know, you know. And don't. I saw a reference to a sworn employee, so I'm asking you, what does it mean to be a sworn employee? I guess you take an oath. I'm not sure. Okay. We talked a little bit about this previously, but you were given a Crown Victoria vehicle, correct? I was allowed to use it. Allowed to use it? Yeah. So was it like shared by you and other people, or was it solely in your possession and control? It was the vehicle that I drove home and to work. I don't think they're supposed to be doing that. They also have one that they've had one down in Neon at Chuck Fernandez's house for years. I mean, and he was just a volunteer deputy, a special deputy. I don't think he was actually a paid deputy. But he's had a sheriff's deputy vehicle at his house for a very, very, very long time. I didn't think that's how that was supposed to work, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, did anybody else drive it during the day while you were at the courthouse? If somebody needed it, okay. I can't really think of any of a particular time if somebody that needed it, they could have used it. Okay. Did every deputy sheriff have a vehicle that they could use to drive home and back to work? I can't remember. I know that some did, but I can't say all. What was the policy for using the sheriff's department vehicle for non-work related travel? I'm not sure. Do you recall being made aware or training on any policies on any related you were or were not supposed to use that vehicle? I can't remember. I was going to show you a form. I'm not going to bother making it an exhibit. This is something that was produced in discovery. I was wondering, have you ever seen this form? Yes. Okay. Did you ever fill out a form like that? Yes. And would you fill it out on a monthly basis, or why would you fill out a form such as that? On a monthly basis, it was to turn in the fuel usage and mileage on the vehicle. I knew that's where she was going with that. So who would pay for the gas that went in the car? The sheriff's office, I would imagine. Did you pay for it and then they reimbursed you? Or how did that work? Because here's where the white collar crime comes in, y'all, on a whole lot of things. Financial crimes are often done when there's not good policies or procedures in place to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. Did you pay for it and then they reimburse you, or how did that work? I had a fuel card. Really? Oh my gosh. I had a fuel card. Sometimes if we went to pick up a prisoner somewheres, some gas stations didn't accept it. And then I would pay out of pocket and put the receipt with it, and they would reimburse me. So part of your job as the court security officer was to transport inmates? Yes. Okay. How often would you do that? Pretty often. I'd say monthly. So if you did it monthly, you needed a gas card provided by the sheriff's department and a vehicle that you got to drive back and forth to work. That ain't even how that's supposed to work. Like, you're supposed to drive your own vehicle to and from work, and then you drive the work vehicle for work purposes. But it's not the responsibility of the sheriff's department to pay for your transportation and fuel to and from work. That ain't nowhere. So I'm interested to see how this turns out. Oh, getting fired up, y'all. Okay, help me understand sort of what all your duties were as court security officer. It was to be the bailiff in the courtroom, get prisoners from the jail and bring them up to court and take them down, transport prisoners from other jails back to Letcher County, or serve subpoenas, summons, civil papers. Anything else? Not that I can think of. Were you paid by the hour for your work for the sheriff's department, or salary? By the hour. Okay, so would you turn in those hours to the sheriff's department? Yes. Were there sort of set hours per day? Did you always work 8 to 5, or how did that work? And to stop again, do you know how many law enforcement, usually the ones that I've seen, the recent cases that I've seen, they were higher ups that were doing it. It wasn't these low deputies, newbie rookies. It was chiefs. It was deputy chiefs. It was supervisors that turn in so much because they turn in their hours, and then they get put on like task force duties and other kind of extra duties things. And they were overcharging, like turning in holiday pay, working 3 times on Christmas. I mean, the kinds of fraud, financial fraud, that a lot of law enforcement departments have started to get caught up on. This right here makes me think about that. I think it was, but who's reading, who's looking and overseeing all that kind of stuff to be able to catch it? There ain't nobody. I can't think of the actual hours. It was 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day, 8 to 4, 8 to 4:30, something like that. 8:30 to 4:30 maybe. I can't remember. And would you ever perform services for EKCS during that time period when you were working for the sheriff's department? If somebody that was on house arrest was in court or a hearing and didn't get off house arrest, they would go ahead and pay me their weekly payment before they left. Or if somebody got off, I would go ahead and cut the bracelet off of them before they left. Okay. And that would just be in the district courtroom? Yes. Okay. Was it more often Judge Mullins who would put people on house arrest, or would that be more of a Judge Kraft decision? Both. It just depended where they had a case out of. Okay. But you would handle the home incarceration duties for both district and circuit court, even though you were the bailiff for district court, correct? Yes. You had a sheriff's department uniform, correct? Yes. Okay. Did you have a badge? Yes. Did you carry a pew-pew? Yes. Okay. And did you wear that uniform badge? And did you carry that pew-pew during time periods when you were performing services for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions? Yes. Talk about intimidation. He's coercing these women with that holstered on his hip. And were you aware of any policies with the sheriff's department about when you were or were not supposed to use that sheriff's department property that I just identified? Not that I know of. Okay, so let's start when you were working for the jail. Did you have any special access? And by that, I mean keys or key cards that gave you access to the courthouse portion of the building while I was at the jail? Correct. No, not that I know of. Okay. So when you were working for the jail, if you were accessing the courthouse portion of the building, were you able to access that because the door was unlocked? Could you rephrase that maybe? Yeah. While you were working for the jail, if you were going up into the courthouse for any reason, were those doors unlocked? Is that how you gained access? The jail is inside of the courthouse perimeter. But in my mind, they are sort of separate somewhat. I would think there is some locked doors between the jail and the district courtroom, for example, at least during certain periods of the day. Yes. While you were working for the jail, if you were trying to get from the jail to the district courtroom, did you have any special key or key card that lets you gain access to that off hours? Off hours, no. So you couldn't gain access to that while you were working for the jail of hours? Not to the courtrooms. Right. But to the general hallway? Yes. And where the bathrooms were? Yes. And then when you became a court security officer, were you then given some sort of special access, a key card that allowed you to access more portions of the courthouse? Yes. And who gave you that key card or key? I guess the sheriff's office did. The key card came from ALC, I believe from the clerk's office. And what did that key card give you access to? The side door into the courtroom, into the courthouse. So if I'm looking at the front of the Letcher County Courthouse, the jail is over on the left side, correct? It is under the entire building. It is the whole basement. Okay, but the access door is on the left? Yes, the lobby would be on the left. Okay, and when you reference the side door into the courthouse, Is that on the right side of the building, or where is that door? On the left. So it is over on that same jail side? Yes. But a different door from the jail entrance door? Yes. Okay. And did that key card give you access to Judge Mullins's chambers? From the side door, if he left his door unlocked, I would have access to it. But if he had it locked, I would not. Did he regularly leave his chamber's door unlocked? What would be regular? I don't know. Did you ever go into the courthouse and find his chamber door locked? We will start there. Did I ever find it locked? Correct. Yes. Have you ever been in Judge Mullins's chambers without Judge Mullins? Yes. Okay. And on those occasions, when you were there and he was not there, did he give you a key to get into his chambers, or did you happen to find it unlocked? It would have been unlocked. And he was just so trustworthy that because he found the judge's chamber door unlocked, instead of minding his business, he went on into the judge's chambers. Yeah, he was real trustworthy to become a trustee in the jail. Yeah. Did he leave it unlocked for you? I wouldn't imagine just to be leaving it unlocked. Okay, so he never told you that I'm going to leave the door unlocked for you. No. I've got a question about Sheriff Stines' poker parties. After you became a deputy sheriff, as I understood your testimony previously, you weren't sure if you ever attended his poker parties before becoming a deputy sheriff, but you do recall attending them after, correct? Yes. And they happened once a week, to the best of your recollection? Yes. Who else would be at those parties? 5 or 6 people. Were those 5 or 6 people also deputy sheriffs? Not usually. Occasionally, maybe somebody from the sheriff's office would come up, but not on a regular basis. Did you go on a regular basis? Sometimes. I would go regular for a while, and then I may miss some days. Okay. These 5 or 6 people who would have been there, who were not with the sheriff's department, what were their names? I'm not real sure about their last names. Okay, I will take what I can get. Larry was one of them. Okay. Bo. Okay. It's been so long that I can't remember. That is the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. I can't. Did Jason Eccles go to those parties as well? He come up and played cards before, yes. Do you recall any other female deputy sheriffs attending those parties? No. Do you recall any women at all attending those poker parties? No. So it was kind of a men's gathering, I guess. Okay. Did you all drink alcohol at these parties? Not usually. Every now and again, I'd have a beer. And where did they take place? In his garage. Okay. Did you all play for real money? Pennies, nickels, dimes, and stuff like that. And you always sort of settle the score after the game, or was there some sort of a running tab? I don't understand. You know, if you won $20, did you take that $20 home that night? Or was there sort of more of a tab going? Everybody would just keep up with their change, I guess. Were there ever any persons who were on home incarceration who attended one of these poker parties at Sheriff Stines' house? No. This is something that I got through discovery. Actually, I will say through an open records request to the Attorney General's office. Do you recognize this picture? Yes. Who is that? Sheriff Stines. Did you take this photo? I can't remember. Well, I got it through open records request from the criminal file from the Attorney General's office. Does that look to be Sheriff Stines' garage and his poker table? Yes. You don't recall seeing this photo before? I have seen it. I can't remember if I was the one that took it. Okay, do you recall, the night that this photo was taken? Not specifically. Do you know why Sheriff Stines has his shirt pulled up? I would say it was in the middle of the summer, and they ain't no air conditioning in the garage. Do you remember pulling your shirt up at one of his poker parties? No. Am I correct? You would have attended this party during the time period when you were working for the sheriff's department. I would imagine. Let's talk a little bit about East Kentucky Correctional Solutions. You testified previously that some of the work you might have done was during the time period when you was working as bailiff, and that would have been maybe collecting some money from a criminal defendant or cutting the bracelet if need be. Help me understand, aside from those specific duties, what were you other duties? What were you other duties with East Kentucky Correctional Solutions? To hook people up on house arrest. Where would that occur? In the courthouse. At what time? Mr. Shaw. For the record, were these disclosed or produced to opposing counsel at any time after that you received them by subpoena from AG? Ms. Baxter. Yeah. Question. So you would hook people up on house arrest that was at the courthouse. Would that have been during the time period when you were working as a bailiff? What do you mean? Yeah. I want to be more specific. So during the time period, the 8 hours a day that you were working as a bailiff, would you also have been hooking folks up on house arrest during that time period? I did sometime on my lunch. Any other time? Occasionally, on days there wasn't no court, if the judge was done, I would hook people up during that time. Okay. Did you always hook folks up on house arrest at the courthouse? Either at the courthouse or in the lobby at the jail. Okay. And when you were hooking folks up on house arrest, would you be wearing your deputy sheriff's uniform? Correct. It depends on when it was. Well, the times that you were at the courthouse would have been wearing your uniform. If I hooked them up after that I got off work, I would get done and go straight down and hook them up. So you're saying that you would change? You are saying? No, I wouldn't change. I would stop and take my pew-pew belt off and lock it up in my cruiser. Okay, more often than not, you would be wearing your sheriff's department uniform while you were hooking folks up on house arrest, correct? If they got out after that, I worked days that, if it was somebody that came in on a weekend and was bonding out over the weekend, I would wear my regular clothes and drive my truck out to the jail and hook them up. Okay. But if it was somebody that got a bond set through the day, a business day, instead of making them wait for me to run home, change, and come back, I'd just go ahead and hook them up. Isn't it true that more often than not, the hookups that you did would have been through the weekday when you were wearing your uniform, not on the weekends? Is that accurate? I would say that I hooked more up through the week. Okay, that is what I was trying to ask. And so you talked about hookups. What were the other jobs aside from hooking folks up? What would happen next? I'd collect their fees. Okay. Would you go out to the location, the house that I would assume, or apartment where someone was living? Would you actually go out and do sort of a house visit if we had an issue? What would be kind of issue and prompted you to go out there? Tampering with their bracelet, to go out and do a visual check of their bracelet. Okay. So that would be sometime after they had already been hooked up. Yes. Okay. And when you would go out to do those visual checks, would you drive your sheriff's department car? If it was through the week and it was something that I could swing by their residence on my way home, or while I was out, I would. Okay. So you talked about hooking, collecting fees. Where and when would you collect the fees? When I hooked them up, the initial fee was paid. And then every Wednesday, they would report in and I would check the bracelet and collect their fees. And they would report into the courthouse? Yes. And to the district courtroom? Yes. And when you were collecting those weekly, would you be bearing your deputy sheriff's uniform? If I had worked that day? Okay. I believe that you said earlier that you worked 8 hours a day, full-time job, right? Uh-huh. So did you work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, or was there a certain day that you didn't work? Monday through Friday. Did people on home incarceration have different conditions as far as what they were or were not allowed to do? Unless it was set forth by the judge bond decision, they had other conditions that people on house arrest have a set of conditions for the house arrest. Would that mean like this person is allowed to work or this one is allowed to go get their dialysis treatment every Tuesday? Was it things like that? Yes, medical was allowed for everybody, obviously. Working had to be approved by the judge. So in those situations where someone had a special condition, I will call it, was it your job at the home incarceration officer to make sure they were where they were supposed to be when they are supposed to be? I didn't view the monitoring. Patty would view that and let me know if somebody was out of range, and then I would contact them. Okay, but did Patty rely on you to let her know what sort of conditions were or weren't allowed from the judge? Yes. Do you recall East Kentucky Correctional Solutions ever getting any sort of permit or filling out an application with the Letcher County Sheriff's Department to get your work approved for EKCS? I don't know what that would be. Okay, so that is a no. No, I don't know. Did you ever get permission? And specifically, did you ever fill out a permission form, the Letcher County Sheriff's Office, authorizing you to work for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions? No, I don't know what that would be. Okay, were you aware that you were supposed to have filled out some sort of permission to work for EKCS? No. You were paid from East Kentucky Correctional Solutions, not on an hourly basis, but did you receive some sort of percentage of fees collected? Explain to me how you were paid. I was paid half of the hookup fee for anybody that I hooked and $2 per day per person that I had on. So I'm going to stop there for a second. That is different than what Mickey said he got paid. Mickey said he got $25 per hookup and $3 a day per person that was hooked up. So Ben's pay was a little bit different. than Ben's, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. Did you interact at all with your sister Holly Fields Boggs in your role as a home incarceration officer? What do you mean? Did she have any part in the home incarceration program? No. What about Robbie Kentzer? I think that he is someone that works in drug court. No. Okay. So you would get the bond decision from the judge that this person is approved for home incarceration. Would that be the only sort of point of contact through the courthouse that you would have to then do your home incarceration work? Or was there someone else at the courthouse involved in that process? Just me. Just you. Okay. What would you do when someone wasn't behaving consistent with the court orders regarding their home incarceration? Can you say that again? Sure. Someone is violating their terms of their home incarceration. They are not where they are supposed to be, or maybe they haven't paid. What do you do in that situation? I would inform the judge. And would there be a form that you would submit with that information, or would you just verbally tell the judge? I would just verbally tell them. And would you tell Judge Mullins or Judge Kraft, or would it depend on based on who had put that person on home incarceration? Whoever's court they was in. Okay. You would just verbally tell that judge, this person is in violation? Yes. And what did you understand would be the consequence after you notified the judge of that? It was up to the judge. Okay. And what were the options that the judge might choose from to go from there? Revoking their bond, taking them off house arrest, putting back in jail, stuff of that nature. Okay. What is the difference between revoking bond and putting them back in jail? They might not be. I'm not for sure. Okay. So if the judge made the decision that this person is no longer allowed to be on home incarceration, would you be the one that would then go arrest them? I would go and pick them up. I didn't really have to arrest them. The condition of their release, I would transport them back. No, I don't think that's cool. That's like, if he's not arresting them, he don't have arrest powers. How's he going out there and getting them? I don't know. It just seems awful fishy to me. And was that transporting them back? Was that part of your duties as East Kentucky Correctional Solutions person? Or was that part of your duties as deputy sheriff? I guess as the bailiff. If the judge told me to go and pick somebody up and bring them back to the jail, that would be part of the court security. Well, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Okay, so that was part of your duties as court security officer? Okay, I have a couple of questions for you. This was something that you produced. This looks to be a text between you and Patty Stockham, correct? Yes. Okay. And you are talking about a person named Katie LaRue. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. And Patty is letting you know. I guess Patty is asking you for your opinion about whether Katie LaRue can go to a candlelight memorial for her mother. Is that accurate? Yes. And she sends this text during a time period when Katie LaRue was on home incarceration, correct? I would imagine. And did you let Patty Stockham know that Katie LaRue was your aunt? I don't know if she was legally my aunt at that time, but at some point she was married to your uncle, correct? Yes, as far as I know. Okay. Well, if during this time period Katie LaRue had been your aunt or had been in a romantic relationship with your uncle, do you think that is something that Patty should have been made aware of? Can you say that again? If Katie LaRue was indeed your aunt at the time that this text was sent, or was in some sort of romantic relationship with your uncle, do you think that a sort of information you should have disclosed to Patty? Mr. Kelly, note an objection. Go ahead and answer the best you can. Possibly. Did you ever tell Patty? Do you ever recall telling Patty that Katie LaRue was your aunt or in some sort of romantic relationship with your uncle? Not that I can remember. And in this text, you let Patty know that Katie LaRue was not allowed to go to her mother's candlelight memorial. Correct? Correct. And was that your decision, or whose decision was that? Let me put it this way. Was that your decision that she could not go, or was that some term of her home incarceration? I'm not sure. I don't know if I could have been sitting with the judge at the time and asked him and he said no. I'm not sure. Okay. This text to me evidences that Patty looked to you for guidance, in your opinion, as far as what persons on home incarceration in Letcher could or could not do. Is that fair? Objection as to form. She would ask me often about certain things because I would know the conditions of their bond more so than she would, or I would have access to ask the judge on their behalf. In those situations when you would ask the judge whether someone could or couldn't do something, that was always verbal. Most often, sometimes, I would maybe text him and ask him, and then he would reply. Were there other situations where you just made that decision on your own about what someone on home incarceration could or could not do? I'm sure that I did. I'm sure he did too. Ugh. Okay. And what authority did you have to decide the terms of their house arrest? Mr. Kelly, objection to form. Go ahead and answer. If somebody texted me that is house arrest and say, I need to go to the ER, is that all right? I will just tell them yes. Okay. And I think medical seems like a different situation. Would you agree? Yeah. So let's stick to this specific example. If someone wants to go to a candlelight memorial, do you exercise the discretion to decide when someone could do something like that? See, they forgot the whole not part of that sentence. How are you going to put this in a court like that? In general, or in this, I am talking about this specific example, but I'm also curious more generally. Objection to form. Go ahead. I would say that I have made decisions before. Okay. Did the judge tell you that you had authority to make decisions like that? On some people, he would. Okay. By he, do you mean Judge Mullins? Either judge. Was Katie LaRue one of those people that you had the discretion to make those decisions for? I can't remember. There were some criminal charges against your Uncle Bill Meade, correct? Yes. And did those involve Katie LaRue's daughter, if you recall? I don't know who it involved. Okay. Let's look at another document. Man, that sure opens a big set of eyeballs. So Bill Meade is his uncle, who was the fire chief up Kings Creek Fire Department. He was charged and convicted of messing with like a 14-year-old girl. He went to trial. He wouldn't go to court. Judge Kraft had to have him brought to court because he didn't even show up on his trial date. So if Katie LaRue's daughter was the one who the uncle messed with, then Ben was digging at her. She wanted to go to her mother's. That's what it sounds like to me. She wanted to go to her mother's thing, but because the situation with his uncle, Bill Meade, being brought up on charges, looks like Ben was giving her a hard time on house arrest. That's what that looks like. Let's look at another document. This is another one that you produced. So do you recognize this? Yes. And this looks to be some text messages between yourself and Patty Stockham. Yes. And you are discussing someone named Scott Cornett. Do you see that? Yes. And another person named Mark Cottle. Do you see that? Give me a second. Sure. Okay, yes. Were those two persons who were both on house arrest? I would imagine. It looks like Mr. Cornett was behind on his home incarceration payments, and Patty Stockham says you are threatening them jail. I couldn't do that, LOL. Do you see that? Yes. And that is in response to your text where you state, I have told him that if he doesn't get us paid, I will get a warrant on him. Do you see that? Yeah. So did you have the authority to get a warrant due to your position as a deputy sheriff? My understanding is anybody can get a warrant. Oh, that's abusing the system, which they just changed that recently. Used to, anybody could go into the county attorney's office and tell them something happened, and the county attorney would issue a warrant, or could issue a warrant, an arrest warrant on somebody just based off of your accusation. Now, that can no longer take place. Now, you can't go into the county attorney's office and get them to file a warrant. From the way that I understand this new law is any warrants or charges have to come through the police. So the police have to be the ones to then contact the county attorney or the Commonwealth attorney to bring charges. People can't. The average citizen can no longer go down to the courthouse or the county attorney's office and request a warrant be taken. So that has just recently changed in the state of Kentucky. Okay. Have you gotten warrants on persons on home incarceration? Yes. Okay. And earlier, I remember you saying that if someone violates the terms of their home incarceration, the judge could just revoke that home incarceration. Is that the same thing as getting a warrant on someone? I'm sorry. I thought that I understood you to say previously in a situation where someone is on home incarceration, they violate that home incarceration. I thought I heard you say that the judge could just revoke their ability to be on home incarceration which doesn't necessarily mean that there is a warrant for their arrest, right? Because they are already under the control and supervision of the court system. Is that accurate? Mr. Kelly, note an objection. Is it an contempt of court charge? And see, it's the way that they have this. Is it an contempt of court charge? Or is it supposed to, there's no question mark there. So do they have the sentence completely wrong? Is it supposed to say it is a contempt of court charge? I mean, man. Ms. Baxter, I'm trying to explore the distinctions. The judge would quite often issue a bench warrant for that particular case of the bond being revoked as the cause, but the jail would have something to house them on. Okay, so the judge could get a bench warrant, I guess, in a situation like this when someone hasn't paid their home incarceration fees? No, this is talking about me getting a warrant on referring to pay for service. On referring to pay for service? Just like if I ran a septic company and done a job and they didn't pay me, I could get a theft of services warrant from my understanding. Oh! So if these people can't afford to pay their house arrest, you're going to go charge them with another freaking crime? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And these are our legal beagles down there that aren't doing no better than this? Okay. And that is what you are talking about further down in this text chain, where you purposing trying to get a warrant for Scott Cornett's arrest based on his failure to pay the home incarceration fees. I probably told Scott that he has to come back and pay me what he owed, or I would have to get a warrant on him. And the warrant would be theft of services? That is what it looks like. Did you end up doing that? No. Have you ever done that? No. Man. There's so much wrong here, you guys. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Let's go over here and let me take a break for a minute. I'm going to come back over here. Yeah. Y'all hit that like button for me. Subscribe. I sure do a whole lot of work. Miss Marnie. Mickey's attorney said he had every right to be in fear. So there is a specific reason for that. Denise, your laws are completely different than mine. Our magistrates write warrants. Yeah, our magistrates don't do that here. Would have been a betrayal worse than a teacher-student betrayal because of how long he knew this. Oh, I think y'all are talking about Judge Mullins. I just don't. I just do not get it. They were and see, this is what I've been hollering ever since I had my situation down there with the social workers. They all worked together. They worked with the police, the social workers. See, the social workers also use the criminal justice system, and they know the loopholes. They know what they can file and what, you know, they just know what to do. They know what buttons to push. They know what avenues to pursue. They know what filings to file. They know what to threaten you with. And a lot of times they end up going up against people who aren't, they're not educated in the criminal justice system. The only information that they do have is their own experience of going through the criminal justice system, or they have the information that these dumbasses have been telling them. It's where I get in trouble, because when they try to tell me all that BS, I know better, and I push back on it, and it gets me in trouble. Because they're so used to people just falling in line. They're so used to people being so scared and not having any money to hire a lawyer to fight. And who the hell are they going to hire? Daniel Dotson? Matt, whatever his name is, down there? Because that's the only choices that they have, are the defense attorneys that are right in that circle with the rest of them, the sharks. So even if you do end up paying them $20,000 to defend you, you also got to worry about them selling your ass out. These oaths around here in Letcher County don't mean shit if y'all ain't noticed. They don't even know. It seems to be that they don't even know what the hell the oath is that they're even taking. I mean, come on. And then they know how to abuse the system. They know what to do to get you to fall in line. Thank you, Miss Lisa. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. I bless you all. I cannot do it without your support. I appreciate each and every mod that helps this channel. Thank you all. Okay, I'm going back over. I just needed to take a minute. This just is so disappointing. So disappointing. I am just blown away. They are used to people who are not credible. And, you know, you got to think, too, who they're messing with. Like, they're not hitting on an attractive, woman that's got things. I mean, they are hitting on people that are, and proposing these things to people who are at their very lowest. Like, I'm sure they are so attractive in their dirty orange outfits. You know, one of them said they wouldn't even take her to the doctor, and she had a yeast infection that had gotten so bad that she was sick. Basically, I'm paraphrasing what she said, until she got out of jail. Oh, yeah, Ben. There you go. Yeah, they prey on people at their mercy. They prey on people who are vulnerable. We ain't shaming no victims over here, y'all. We champion the victims, because most of them have been victims since they were children. And they go from abuser to abuser to abuser to abuser. And these men know they can smell you coming. They can pick you out in a group of women. They'll pick out the one every single time that they can manipulate, that they can take advantage of. These women that were on house arrest, they had no ability to consent to what he was doing. If you are in a position of authority over anybody, I mean, what kind of choices did these women really have? And if you think for a second that Jennifer Hill and Sabrina Adkins were the only women that he did this to, I seriously, highly doubt that. How did they even hear the rumors? They already gave it in their interviews with the attorney generals. And remember, these are two totally different interviews. The audio file that we listened to last month was the attorney general's interviews for the criminal case against Ben. These depositions are for the civil case against Ben, Mickey, and the ankle monitor company. Okay, so these are two completely different things. The attorney general's office was asking and offering the proffer. So that's where Sabrina was able to give more information. She was able to tell them, you know, anything that she had heard, rumors, anything. They wanted to know any information that she had. Why do they do that? Well, I mean, I'm no lawyer, remember, but in my mind, it's so they can go investigate other things that might be related to this case. I'm sure that there's other reasons that I don't know, but it really makes you think. It just really makes you think. All right, let's get back to the deposition. Patty Stockham certainly believed that you had the ability to threaten persons on home incarceration with jail, that she did not have that authority. Objection as to what he believed. Ms. Baxter, I'm just reading the text. It says, but you are threatening them jail. I couldn't do that. Mr. Kelly, LOL. Ms. Baxter, LOL. Yeah. Mr. Kelly, what does that mean? Ms. Baxter, I think it means laugh out loud. Mr. Kelly, my objection remains the same. You can object to form, but you are going way beyond objecting to form. I don't think so. I think you are trying to instruct this witness. I'm objecting to the way that you are portraying the question, as if she believes that based upon this text. And that is an objection to form. Patty Stockham states, you are threatening them with jail. I couldn't do that. My question to you is, do you agree with Patty? Did you have the ability to threaten folks with jail? And did she not have that ability? I don't know what she believed. That is not what I asked. I am asking, do you agree? I thought it was, but okay. Do you agree that Patty did not the ability to threaten folks with jail, but you did have that ability? Do you agree with that statement? Had to get something from my dog, sorry. Asked and answered. I will object to the form because you are mischaracterizing the statement made. My question is, do you agree with this statement, regardless if whether it is on the page that you had the ability to threaten people with jail, but Patty Stockham did not have that ability? Do you agree or disagree with that statement? Objection to form. That is contrary what he said earlier. I didn't hear him answer the question. That is what I'm trying to get him to answer. He said that anybody had the right to get a warrant. He told you that. Please answer the question. Anybody has the right to get a warrant. So you disagree with the idea that Patty did not have that authority to threaten someone with jail? I can't speak for her. I don't know how she felt. Okay, isn't it true that Angie Fields would sometimes do some of your tasks for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions for you? That's where I said, I can't believe she ain't added to this, because most of the receipts that we saw in the discovery for house arrest fees and payments, Angie's the one who wrote the receipts. She was taking the payments while she was working at jail. When I was gone to in-service training, she collected the money at the lobby of the jail. Did Patty Stockham know that she was doing that for you? Yes. Again, objection to form. Go ahead. Did you tell Patty that? I'm sure that did. Did you have anyone else in Letcher County perform any of your EKCS duties for you? Some people on house arrest would leave their money at the jail with the deputy jailers if I was away for some reason. Anybody in particular? Any deputy jailers in particular? Just whoever was working. So how come the jail ain't involved? How come the jail isn't named? Do you recall someone on home incarceration named Carrie Hall? Yes. Did you give her permission to go to Virginia to deliver a meal for a friend? Do you recall that? I can't recall. Is there a time associated with this? No. Do the best that you can. I can't recall. You have a couple of policies with you. I think this is 4. My question for you, and feel free to review. Have you ever seen this policy before? I'm sure that I have. Okay. Do you recall if you obtained this policy and reviewed it at the time that you were hired as a Letcher County Deputy Sheriff? I would imagine that I would. Okay. And this policy requires your conduct to be beyond reproach, on and off duty. Correct? Object to form. Let's go off the record and give him a chance to look it over. We took a break. Did you have a chance to review this ethics policy that was marked as Exhibit 4 to your deposition? Yes. Do you see under the second paragraph where it says policy, it says conduct on and off duty must be beyond reproach? Do you see that? Yes. Okay. And so did you understand that you had to behave consistent with this policy as a Letcher County Sheriff's Deputy? What do you mean? Were you supposed to abide by this policy? I'm sure that I was. Okay. And this policy covers both your conduct on and off duty. Would you agree? Yes. Okay, let's talk about the second page. And it talks about abusive positions. Do you see that under D? Do you see that? Yes. Employees shall not use their departmental position, identification card, or badge for personal or financial gain. Do you see that? Yes. And you violated that policy, did you not? Note an objection. I'm not sure. Okay. I would also as to what the sanction is that forms the basis of the complaint. That is what it does. Don't make a lick of sense. It is not violating any regulation for which he could be punished. Oh, so he didn't violate any regulation for which he could be punished. Okay. Were you ultimately terminated from the Letcher County Sheriff's Department, correct? Yes. Do you know if you were terminated for violating this policy? I'm not sure. Were you ever given any reason for why you were being terminated? I was given a termination letter. Right. Were you given any reason for why you were being terminated? I am sure that it was over the allegations of the civil case. And by the allegations of the civil case, that is also the criminal case that you pled guilty to, correct? Yes. Okay. I guess before today, have you ever seen this policy? I'm sure that I have. Okay. At the end of this policy, it says that the department will strive to include a component of ethics in all in-service training. Do you know what this policy means by in-service training? I do not. And it references annual in-service training on ethics. Do you see that? Yes. Do you recall there being any annual or in-service training on ethics through the Letcher County Sheriff's Department? I can't remember. Let's set this to the side, and this will be marked Exhibit 5. Have you had a chance to review that? Yes. Okay. This is the Letcher County Sheriff's Department sexual misconduct policy. And I'm reading under subsection 2, which it says policy is the policy of this department to train all of their officers concerning the potential for criminal sexual misconduct within the law enforcement, how to recognize it, and the requirements for reporting violations. So I just want to know, what training did you receive on this policy? I'm not sure. Do you recall seeing this policy before today? I'm sure that I have. But do you have any specific memories of seeing this policy before today? No. Do you recall receiving any annual training on this policy? It is possible. Are you aware of what the requirements are for reporting violations of this sexual misconduct policy to the appropriate authorities? Objection as to form. I don't understand the question. It just references training on requirements for reporting sexual misconduct. I was just curious, do you remember receiving any training about how to report sexual misconduct? And if so, what was that training? I can't remember. Okay. And this policy defines sexual misconduct as sexual activity stemming from official duty. Correct. You are talking about paragraph 3A. Is that correct? 3B. So sexual misconduct is defined to include sexual activity stemming from official duty. Correct? While on duty. And it includes use of unofficial position or official resources to obtain information for purposes of pursuing sexual conduct. Do you see that? Yes. Do you know if you were terminated for violating this policy? I can't remember. Do you recall any sort of policy violation coming up during the conversations about your termination? It was a termination letter, and I can't remember exactly what it said. They were just covering their butts. That's why Mickey went and got Hatton to write another one, in my opinion. Did you just get that letter in the mail, or was it hand-delivered? The Sheriff Stines handed it to me. I was in the parking lot of the courthouse, and he was walking back from the county attorney's office at that time. Did he say anything to you when he handed it to you? No. He didn't say a word. He just handed it to you. Well, I'm sure that he said something, but I don't know. Okay. How long did that conversation last? Seconds, if there was one. That would be considered a conversation. Okay. I'm looking now on the second page, subsection D, and I just want to confirm your understanding. Do you understand this policy to forbid a sheriff's deputy from engaging in sexual conduct with someone in the custody of law over whom such officer has supervisory or disciplinary authority? Do you see that? I see where it says that. And in your role as a deputy sheriff, did you have such authority over persons? I don't understand. We just looked at subsection D. It says a deputy sheriff is not to engage in sexual conduct with persons who are in the custody of law, or with persons over whom such officer has supervisory or disciplinary authority. Do you see that? I see where it says that. Did you have supervisory or disciplinary authority over persons during the time period which you were working with the sheriff's department? I don't think a lot of these people even know the meaning of half of these words. I had Bert Sloan say to me one day when I was down there, he was going on and on and on about, I saw him outside, and he was going on about his high turnover rate, how he couldn't find nobody to hire that could barely read or write. And when I said something about me, he just hung his head and didn't respond, which is fine. But if you can't, if so many people that are being hired in these positions are barely literate, how do you expect them to read a policy manual or even know what half of the words even mean? Are you saying that includes the period when he was working for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions as well? Yeah, it was the same time period. I was asking when you were wearing your deputy sheriff's hat. Did you have supervisory or disciplinary authority over people? Object to state was major. I don't think I was a supervisor. Did you have the authority to discipline people? Other members of the sheriff's office? No, members of the public. Do you mean like to arrest somebody? Well, that is one example. I had arrest powers inside of the courthouse, so why are you going to people's houses, bringing them back to jail? I mean, if you ain't got arrest powers, where is that? Like, where does that even make any sense? Did you ever have sexual contact with anyone who you ever arrested? No. Did you have sexual conduct with persons who are on home incarceration? Oh, you did have sexual conduct with persons who are on home incarceration, correct? One person. One person? Who was that person? Sabrina Adkins. You are denying that you had any sexual contact with Brianna Cornett? Yes. And you deny that you had any sexual contact with Jennifer Hill? Yes. And you deny, remember, he was only charged criminally with Sabrina Adkins. Jennifer Hill, I think he was charged with Jennifer Hill, but Jennifer Hill passed away, so he didn't plead guilty to her, and there was no longer a victim. So the only person that he was charged criminally for was Sabrina Adkins. So if he says anything now regarding somebody else, he can still be charged criminally with a whole new victim. So he has to be very careful what he says. And you deny that you had any sexual with any other person who was on home incarceration? Is that your testimony today? Yes. Were you aware of anybody else in the sheriff's department who would have violated this policy? Not that I'm aware of. Do you recall receiving any specific training on this policy? Can't remember. I just want to differentiate so it is clear. You don't recall having specific training on this policy at the time that you were hired or on any kind of annual basis? Is that correct? I can't remember. Let's move on to the next one. For clarification, are you talking about academy training as well? Any training whatsoever when I said at hiring. Do you have CJT including any training on this policy? This was the Letcher County Sheriff's policy. There are state laws, so KRS, that covers most of this. If you want to ask some questions to clarify later, you can. I was trying to make the record clearer for you. I'm trying to help you out here. Thank you. We are on 6, I believe. I want to show you one more policy here. This policy is 3 pages, and if you want to go off the record so that you can review that, do you need a minute to look at it? Yeah, I think that I do. You have in front of you a policy from the Letcher County Sheriff's Department related to secondary employment. Have you had a chance to look that over? Yes. Okay, so there is 2 different types of secondary employment identified in this policy. One is extra duties detail. Do you see that? Yes. Okay. I guess first question, are you aware of any other extra duty details that were approved under this policy that were happening during the time period that you were working for the Letcher County Sheriff's Department? Not that I know of. Did East Kentucky Correctional Solutions have approval from the Sheriff's Department for extra duty details under this policy to your knowledge? Not that I'm aware of. Not that I know of. What about outside employment, rather? Were you aware of anyone aside from yourself who worked for the Letcher County Sheriff's Department who was engaged in outside employment? Not that I can think of. So you were the only person with the second job working for the Letcher County Sheriff's Department during that time period, to your knowledge? Nobody had a second job aside from you, as the best that you can recall? Not that I know of. The home incarceration officer position with East Kentucky Correctional Solutions, was that was performance of law enforcement duty, was it not? Objection as to form. Objection. Go ahead and answer. I don't think it was. Why not? It was a contract company. It is not whether it was a contract company. It was about the kind of work that you performed. And the work that you performed was in the nature of law enforcement duties. Wouldn't you agree? So what I think they're getting at that is, remember, I told you that this was a 1099 position. So they were independent contractors. So they weren't employees as like a W-2. They didn't get a W-2 for their taxes. They got a 1099. It's an independent contracting position, which we see a whole lot more of these days. And there's certain loopholes and things that I see as the main difference, and the tax stuff. I think that's the biggest difference. And people are finding out that they can hire people as independent contractors, and it kind of shifts the responsibility and everything to them as the independent contractor. And it relieves the hirer, it relieves them of a lot of responsibility and stuff. All right, same objection. Go ahead and answer. I don't really understand it. My question is, was the work that you performed for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions in the nature of law enforcement? Yes or no? I don't think it was. And then, what kind of duties were they, if not law enforcement? I mean, they had to be on house arrest. If an inmate condition was to go to rehab, is rehab a law enforcement agency? I'm just confused about the question itself, I guess. I don't feel like it is. Okay, I'm just trying to ask you why you don't feel like it is. And do you want to add to your answer, or do you want to leave it at that? No, just at that. Do you recall seeing this policy before today? Not specifically. Do you know if the Letcher County Sheriff's Department is an accredited department? I'm sorry. Does it have any kind of accreditation? Accredited by whom? Well, I think the Commission on Accredited Law Agencies is referenced. That is standard reference, the KALEA. So, to you knowledge, is the Letcher County Sheriff's Office accredited? I don't know. What did you say? KLEA? I thought there was AJA was the only accreditation. The Kentucky Law Enforcement Association, maybe. I don't know what KLEA stood for, and believe it stands for the Commission on Accredited Law Enforcement Agencies. K or C? I'm sorry, C. All right. Good catch. CALEA. That is referenced in the policy. Next, I have got a number of Facebook communications, and I'm really just trying to figure out if you recall sending or receiving them. And just to confirm who is a party to these, I will tell you what I have got is what I was able to get through open records request from the Attorney General's office. And some of it is redacted. That is all that I have been able to get. And we have worked hard to try problem solve this. What I think I understood to testify to previously is you have all of these records at your house. I don't know that that. As part of the Attorney General's production that you were referencing, is that significant portion of it Facebook communications? No, I don't believe it was. Not that I remember. Okay, so what is it? I don't think he has what you think he has. And he may not. I am trying to figure out what he has. What do you have? I think it is things that he got from his criminal. Let him answer for himself. Quit trying to answer for him. Okay, go ahead. What was it? What do you have at your house? You referenced that you had a bunch of documents from your criminal case, and you said that you had looked at them. So what are these documents that you have? I think they were like an AT&T report of phone numbers. Okay, that is the bulk of it. Okay. Do you recall having a bunch of Facebook communications? No, I don't remember that at all. Any audio recordings? No. And those were documents that you got through the criminal case? I believe so. I'm thinking so. Anything aside from phone records? There could be some pictures or some records of the house arrest form. That is all that really sticks out. Whatever you have, I ask that you give it to your attorney because we asked for that in discovery, and I want to be able to look at that, okay? You asked for 2 things from us, and I forgot what the first thing was. A bunch of family members. Will you send me a letter? Yes, of course. So on this first page of this document, do you see a woman ankle with an ankle monitor on it? Yes. Do you know whose ankle that is? I can't make out the face. Okay. Do you recall Jason Eccles sending this image to you in July of 2021? I don't recall it. Flip over to the second page. Do you see at the top of the page, Jason Eccles writes to you, Ben band is a fashionable part of any wardrobe? Do you see that? Yes. And he was talking about that ankle monitor, wasn't he? I would imagine. Did you refer to ankle monitors as Ben bands yourself? I never. But Jason did? That is what it looks like. Do you know why he would have been referring to an ankle monitor as a Ben band? I guess because it is banned. And I am over house arrest. And my name is Ben. I don't mean for that to sound rude. I didn't take that as rude. You're fine. Looks like you responded to Jason Eccles, but it is just a bunch of rectangles. Do you see that? Yes. Would you still have this Facebook message correspondence to figure what sort of... I think those are probably emojis that got converted into rectangles. Do you have access to this to know what sort of response you sent him on July 17th? I'm not sure if I still have it or not. I will ask you to look and see. All right. And Jason Eccles, he worked with you as a sheriff's deputy, correct? Yes. And also, I guess, as a court security officer, correct? It is the same. But he had that same position within the deputy sheriff's office as you? Yes. Are you aware of anybody else referring to ankle monitor as a Ben band aside from Jason Eccles? Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody. Okay. And at the time that you two were having this conversation, you were both employed by the Letcher County Sheriff's Department, correct? Mr. Kelly, what is the date on it? July 17th, 2021. I was. I'm not sure when he started. He could have been working at the time. Well, you started in 2019, correct? Yes. Does that help refresh your recollection about when he would have started? It don't. Okay, let's put this aside. Okay, my first question is this. Looks to be part of a Facebook message communication between yourself and Sheriff Stines. Is that correct? Would you agree with that? Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay, and it looks like it is a conversation from August 19th, 21. Do you agree? It starts on the 18th. August 18th at the top line. Okay, so August 18th to 19th, 20 and 21. Okay, and look at the second page. Did you create that image? It is possible. Okay, well, whose face it is on top of that image? Sheriff Stines. Okay. Whose face is it on the bottom with the deputy sheriff's hat on? Jason Eccles. Okay, and did you cut and paste their faces onto this statue? Yes, I'm pretty sure that I did. Why did you do that? As a joke. Why was that a joke? Or help me understand why that was funny. Just a joke. Did you have any conversation with Sheriff Stines about this before you did it? No. Did he ask you to do it? No. Well, you sent this image to him, correct? Yes. And then flip it over to the 4th page of the exhibit. And there is a new face that appears over the penis of this statue. Whose face is that? I think maybe James Norris. Was James Norris another deputy sheriff? Yes. At least in this picture from August of 21, James Eccles is wearing a deputy sheriff's hat. Correct? Yes. So does that refresh your recollection about whether he was a deputy sheriff, at least in August of 21? I suppose so. And you send this to Sheriff Stines as well, did you not? Yeah, says it. Okay. And then look at the last page. You told Sheriff Stines, I have censored it. And his response was, that is great. Do you see that? Yes. Okay. Did you guys discuss this outside of the Facebook message chain? What do you mean? Like, were there any other conversations about these images that is not represented on this exhibit? Not that I can think of. Did you ever get reprimanded or disciplined for creating this image and sending it to the sheriff? Not that I'm aware of. And then it looks like Sheriff Stines says, I sent it in the group. Do you see that? Yeah. Do you know what he is referring to when he says in the group? Not off the top of my head. Bullcrap. Okay. Did Sheriff Stines ever give you any kind of response about these images that you created aside stating that is great? Not that I can remember. Okay. That is all I've got for that one. This looks to me to be a Facebook message thread between yourself, Jason Eccles, Seth Whitaker, and James Norris. I'm wondering if you would agree with that. That is the names that I see. Those are the names that I saw as well. And it looks like the dates on these communications were October 3rd, 21 through October 16th, 21, I guess. Do you agree? Yes. And during that time period, yourself, Jason Eccles, Seth Whitaker, and James Norris were all deputy sheriffs with the Letcher County Sheriff's Department, correct? Yes, I believe so. Okay. I was curious about the picture that was on the page marked at the bottom. Do you see that? Yes. Is that your head that has been photoshopped on the body on the far left? Yes. Who's the person to your, the next person towards the person to the right of you? Seth Whitaker. Okay. And who's the person to the right of Seth Whitaker? James Norris. Okay. And that looks to be the same face that I saw previously. So that is Jason Eccles. Is that correct? Yes. And then you have a bunch of KFC on a table that you're looking at. Yes. Why did you create this image? I don't know. You don't remember any of the context for why? Did you create it because you thought it was funny? Possibly. I'm sure it was. Okay. Those are all of the questions that I have on this one. But do you recall this exchange? I will say. Just one sitting. I don't remember what I was doing during this time, but you remember this Facebook and these images between you and your fellow deputies, correct? Yes. This is communications between yourself, Jason Eccles, and Seth Whitaker, dated October 16th, 21. Would you agree with that? Yes. Okay. And again, on that date, all of 3 of you were working with the Letcher County Sheriff's Department, correct? Yes. Okay. And it looks to me the way that I read this, do you recall sending the image that on the page marked at the bottom to your fellow deputies? I don't recall it. By your read of this exhibit, does that appear to be the case that you sent that image? Yes. Okay. And the same question for the image on the page, marked whatever. Does that appear to be an image that you shared with your coworkers? That is what it says. Okay. And then also the image on the page marked numbers. Do you remember sending that image? Not specifically. Based on your review of this exhibit, would you agree that you were the one who sent that image to your coworkers? Yes. Okay. And again, same question with the image on the page marked numbers. Did you send that image? That is what it looks like. And then there is an image on the page marked bunch of numbers. Do you remember sending that image? I don't remember it, but that is what it says. It appears to show that you did send that image to your coworkers, right? Yes. Okay. And then there's an image on these numbers, and then on these numbers. Do you see those two? Yes. Okay. Were you the one that photoshopped Mr. Eccles' face onto that image? I could have. Okay. Do you recall doing that? I don't recall doing it, but I sent it. It is saying so. Okay. Were you ever disciplined, or were any of your fellow deputies ever disciplined as a result of any of these Facebook communications that we just reviewed? Not that I know of. Okay. Did you report any of these communications to the sheriff or anybody at any point? Not that I know of. Okay. I have another one here. And this looks to be some communication between yourself and Deputy Eccles, dated October 12th to October 13th of 21. Do you see that? Yes. Okay. And it looks like Deputy Eccles is asking you to Photoshop someone named Kevin head onto an image. Do you see that? Yes. Is that Judge Kevin Mullins? Yes. Do you know why he would have asked you to do that? I don't. You never talked about it outside of this document. I guess he thought it would be funny. Okay. Do you know if he ever shared to Judge Mullins? I'm not sure. Okay. And then if you flip over another page, do you see that image? It looks to be that you sent this image to Mr. Eccles, and it shows that same picture with Judge Mullins' head photoshopped on it. And then there are two women on either side of him. Yes. Who are those women? Jason Eccles' wife and his mother. What are their names? His wife is Danielle. Eccles, I guess. Yes. And then that is his mother? Yes. What is her name? I don't know. How did you get the picture of his mom? Probably off Facebook. Is Jason Eccles' wife and mother related to Judge Mullins? Not that I know of. Why did you put on top there nothing is better than a close family? Do you see that written on there? Yes. Why did you write that? I don't know. Okay. On that same page towards the top, you and Mr. Eccles are talking about taking a kid back. And Jason says, I let him drive so that I can nap. Do you recall what you all were referring to in that conversation? He probably transported a juvenile back to Breathitt County. And he is saying that he let this juvenile defendant drive so he could nap. That is what he said. Okay, do you have any idea who that juvenile defendant would have been? No. Who is Joe Scott Ingram? I'm not sure. He writes to you and says, "Good morning, Ben." And you write, "Good morning" to Joe. Do you see that? Yes. And then this Joe Scott Ingram asks, "Would you be willing to come in and do Jennifer Potter's house arrest today?" Do you see that? Yes. So does that refresh your recollection about who Joe Scott Ingram would have been? I guess it was somebody wanting to get Jennifer Potter out on house arrest. Okay. Is that normal for like third party persons to try to contact you like that through Facebook and ask you to get someone or do someone's house arrest? Yes. Okay. Do you remember if you actually went down to where would you have gone to put her on house arrest when it says come in? Where would that be? Probably at the jail. Okay. So, to the best of your recollection, this person asking you to go down to the jail and put an ankle monitor on her? That it sounds like. Okay. That was all that I was curious about on that one. I think right now might be a good time to take a break. Mr. Fields, we are back from our lunch break. I want to ask you about some women's names that I have and see if you know any of these persons. The first person I'm going to ask you about is Crystal Dishman. Do you know Crystal Dishman? I know a Crystal Dishman from Letcher County. Yes. Have you ever told Crystal Dishman that you could help her with criminal legal issues in exchange for sexual favors? Hold on right there. This is an instance we talked about before. I don't think it is relevant, but it also implicates the Fifth Amendment considerations. You would have to announce to her that you are going to exercise those rights, but it is up to you. Go ahead. Did you ever tell Crystal Dishman that you could give her help with criminal legal issues in exchange for sexual favors? Nope. Have you ever had any sexual contact with Crystal Dishman? Nope. Okay. Tommy Conley. Do you remember Tommy Conley? Is that a woman? It is a woman. She was on home incarceration for a period of time. Do you remember her? Nope. Have you ever been alone with her in the judge's chambers at Letcher County Courthouse? The same admonition that I gave you earlier. Go ahead. Nope. Have you ever had any sexual contact with her? Nope. What about Amanda Shields? I don't know anybody by that name. So I think that I know your answer. But have you ever had any sexual contact with Amanda Shields? Nope. What about Bobby Stamper? Have you ever had any sexual contact with Bobby Stamper? Nope. The same admonition. What about Bobby Sue Hall? Have you ever had any sexual contact with Bobby Sue Hall? Nope. What about Crystal Johnson? Have you ever had sexual contact with Crystal Johnson? Nope. What about Jennifer Potter? Have you had any sexual contact with Jennifer Potter? Nope. Same admonition. Do you know anything about a relationship between Judge Mullins and a Virginia Potter? Nope. Never heard anything about that? Nope. Do you know who Virginia Potter is? The name sounds familiar, but I can't place the person. What about Carrie Hall? Have you ever had any sexual contact with Carrie Hall? That same admonition? Nope. What about Rebecca Hall? Same admonition. Have you ever had sexual with Rebecca Hall? Nope. Mahalia Sizemore? Have you ever had any sexual contact with Mahalia Sizemore? The same admonition. Nope. And finally, Misty Smallwood. Have you ever had any sexual contact with Misty Smallwood? Same admonition. Nope. Of the persons that I just named, have you ever engaged in any sort of flirtatious communications with any of those women? Nope. Okay. I want to know about Brianna Cornett. Am I correct that you pled guilty to tampering with a prisoner's monitoring device related to, I guess, was one of those tampering with a prisoner's monitor device charges related to Brianna Cornett? She as number 3. Am I correct on the indictment? I'm not sure. That sounds right. I think she was number 3. What was the question? Did you plead guilty to tampering with a prisoner's monitoring device in relation to Brianna Cornett? Hold on a second. Are you looking for a document that you want to show to Mr. Fields? Yeah. Okay. Can I see the document? Sure. It is my understanding it is public record. Can I see that? Sure. This is a page from your plea agreement. Does that sound accurate? It is. Okay. So does that document help refresh your recollection about whether or not Brianna Cornett and you interactions with her resulted in your pleading guilty to tampering with a prisoner's monitoring device? Yes. And did you plead guilty to that charge related to Brianna Cornett because you are guilty? Yes. And what did you do to tamper with Brianna Cornett's monitoring device? She didn't have a home phone at the time, and I deactivated her bracelet for a couple of days until that I got a GPS monitor for her. Okay. So why would she have to have a home phone to have a working ankle monitor? The old units ran off the landline. Okay. Would that action have occurred back in 2020? I can't remember when it happened. But at some point in time, EKCS transitioned their ankle monitors from ones that you would have to plug into the wall to ones that worked off of GPS, correct? Yes. Okay. And it is your testimony that was only for a couple of days that what you are saying? Yes. Did you ever exchange Snapchat messages with Brianna Cornett? No. Did you ever engage in any flirtatious communications with Brianna Cornett? Do you want to go out? Yes. We will take a minute. I just know that I have asked you a question, and you are not answering it. But in light of the question, I'm going to agree that it is fine if you guys want to take a break. All right. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? They just named off a ton of women there, didn't they? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Shoo, man. Butterfly Kisses says bingo. Judge Mullins, that judge was right in the middle of all the good old boys. Vicky says Ben is trying my patience. Juvenile defendant drove while he napped. Oh my God. That's like a circus going on there. I mean, most jobs have a requirement for at least a yearly evaluation, even if it doesn't yield a raise. Yeah, and annual training. I have to take annual retrainings. I have to take annual CEs. I have to do all kinds of things annually for my job, or for any job, really. You usually have some kind of policies, and they're specific policies. I mean, I said it earlier. I wonder how literate these people are, and I wonder how smart they were. I mean, you know, they just don't seem very, like they're very smart people. Ben is a piece of work. I'm surprised he wasn't caught up in something earlier. Either he's playing dumb to what his job entails, or he just lucked through it. Well, let me address that. I'm surprised he wasn't caught up in something earlier. You all, how many times have I told you? It don't matter. Around here, they didn't care. They didn't care what documents were anybody could dig up. They didn't care what public records anybody could dig up. They didn't care anybody goes out and says something or accuses them of something. None of them cared, because this has been happening for years and years and years. Nobody to do anything. There wasn't anybody to do anything about any of this stuff. Who are you going to tell? And look at Ben. Ben got caught. What did he get? 6 months in jail? It don't matter if they do get caught. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. You had FBI. Gosh, take this dog out. You had the FBI came in and investigated Hazard, Perry County Commonwealth Attorney. He was doing worse stuff than Ben. He was committing worse crimes than Ben. At least Ben got charged with them. Blair didn't get charged with none of that stuff, with his crimes. The only charge he got charged with was honest services fraud. That's it. That's it. Period. It doesn't matter. The only reason that any of this is coming out now is because Mickey walked in that courthouse and did what he did. If Mickey wouldn't have, which I'm not using that as any kind of, you know, rallying cry or anything. I hate that he did it. But nobody would be looking at any of this. There would be absolutely no interest. Nobody would care. Nobody would believe it. How many people have heard these stories that are coming out of Letcher County in eastern Kentucky? And ain't nothing happened yet. These kinds of things have been happening for decades. What happens? They get out of one office and they just go into another. James Wiley Craft, he was the prosecutor. He got caught up in all kinds of dirty stuff, guys. He really did. Nobody remembers that. Next thing you know, he ran for mayor, became mayor of Whitesburg, and he was beloved by all. You can't say one word about James Wiley Craft without everybody coming down. I mean, he's a beloved character here, you know. But that's a perfect example. He was what, 70 years old and married a 20-year-old woman? Beauty queen, who's now the mayor of Whitesburg after he passed away. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying there's a pattern here. And it goes far beyond the sheriff's department. My dogs are going crazy. All right, guys. I think I am going to end this one here, and then we'll pick it back up because we've read 135 pages. And my dogs are going nuts. So, yes, I believe that. Mickey opened a Pandora's box. You know, we still don't know. We have no idea what Mickey knew, what Mickey didn't know. I find it hard to believe that anybody down there didn't know what was going on. It seems like it was a very open thing. It was kind of like an open secret. This was the culture that has been formed in Letcher County politics for a very long time. Jessica says, I ain't saying what Mickey did was right, but something needed to happen to get the attention where it was needed. But listen to this. Do you think anything's going to happen? Even though this has been brought to light, even though we're reading these depositions, we're seeing the corruption, the nepotism, the waste, the fraud, the abuse. We see it. We're looking at it every day. We're looking at something new, you know. Do you guys think anything's going to happen? Because I sure don't. Mickey's going to get sentenced, or as long as there's no jury nullification, we're going to see Mickey go down. You're going to see, well, no. You see what happened to Ben. Ben's already been, he's already served his consequence. I mean, he's going to have to deal with the social consequences, but the criminal consequences, those are already done for him. I think he's got some probation, a few years of probation. Who's going to violate him? Ain't nobody around here going to violate him. He's got too many irons in the fire. His sister, you know, you just name it. He's done made all of his connections. I mean, I'm just baffled that these are the people who fill these positions. These are who get tired. Doesn't it make you sick? All right, guys. Well, I am out of here. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you, honey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bless you, bless you, bless you. I could not do any of this channel without you. All right, y'all. I will see you in the morning. We will pick back up on the Twisted Secrets trial in the morning. It's getting really, really good. So you all come be with us. And thank you to all the mods. Thank you for everybody who helps with the channel. And we'll see you in the morning. And we'll pick this back up tomorrow evening. All right. Okay, y'all. Peace out, Girl Scout. Have a great evening. Stay warm. Sleep well. Stay blessed. Bye.